And people are coming to it and they're commenting. And you're like, how does this happen? Where did they come from? Who are these people? What's going on? Am I like popular? Am I a cool kid now because I have a blog and people are commenting? Or wait a minute, are some of those comments spammers? How can you know? How can you possibly know? How many of you wish that you had a professional writer on staff that could write such an auspicious introduction as the one that I received? I would like to begin by telling you that I do not write my own materials, and I try really hard to stay humble by not believing any of the marketing materials that my lovely group creates for me. So today we're going to talk about analytics. Analytics. The first time I heard about analytics, I thought, what is this? What is analytics? So I looked it up, just for you guys. I looked it up in Wikipedia. You know, it's a very reliable source. Wikipedia says that analytics is the science of analysis. Really? That's very helpful. What a great definition. It went on to say that a practical application, wait, you have to hear this. A practical definition, however, would be that analytics is the process of obtaining an optimal or realistic decision based on existing data. Business managers may choose to make decisions based on past experience or rule of thumb, or there may be other qualitative... Really? Really? What exactly is all of that? Today we're actually going to talk very specifically about web analytics. Web analytics are actually an analysis of the trends of people that visit your website. When someone comes to your website, there's actually a little cookie. Does everybody know what a cookie is? It's a little file that's installed on your computer that says, I went to this website. So there's a cookie installed on your computer that says, these are all the websites that I visited. And as a website owner, I can see all of the people that came to my website. It's mostly generic. It's mostly allows for your privacy. They only collect information like, you know, what country are you from? What state do you live in? What operating system are you using? Are you on a Windows? Are you on a Mac? They look and capture what your IP address is. Ooh, very interesting. It is safe. We're going to actually spend most of our time today talking about Google Analytics, and we all know that Google is not going to do horribly awful things to violate your privacy. Right, that's Facebook. We're not going to talk about Facebook today. So analytics, web analytics specifically captures all of that information, and it gives you reports, sort of like the reports that I printed for you. And I just made a couple of copies because I promise after today, you'll want to get your own reports. You won't want a copy of mine. So some of the reports that you can get from web analytics, you may want to see a grouping of all the people that came to your website by what state that they came to. For instance, if you have a national blog and you're trying to reach a national audience, it might be, you know, English-speaking United States, that's who my target is. It might be interesting for you to know that the only hits you're getting are from Virginia. And you think, Virginia? Oh, gosh, that's where Mom lives. Okay, that would be good information to know if all you were getting was hits from Virginia. You know, unless you went ahead and expanded it and you saw that, in fact, you are also getting hits from Guam. Oh, all right, Aunt Sally, she's a missionary. Okay, so we can clearly use analytics to identify how we're doing. Let's take this scenario. I know you're already pretending, but let's pretend further. Let's say, for instance, that there's a women's blogging retreat and that you get invited. I got invited, I just didn't have time to go, okay? I promise I got invited, I just didn't go. And you're sitting around the pool at the women's blogging conference. Retreat. And since we're talking about blogging, you can't really talk about how great your kids are. And you really don't want to pull out like pictures of your car, you know, or your house. Or so what's your status symbol when you're at the women's blogging conference? You could use analytics. Because we all compare ourselves. And no, it's not the best part of who we are, but we kind of do. So it's one another use of analytics is kind of a comparison. Not the most positive way, but I got more hits than you did. You know, if somebody's being mean to you, you can pull it out. I'm just saying. You know, have it in your back pocket. You don't have to pull it out, but when somebody's mean, you know, you gotta dish it out with them. The most beneficial reason to study analytics, if you are blogging for the purpose other than to entertain your mom and your Aunt Sally, if you want to actually share information with the world and you hope to attract a specific audience with that information, and by attracting a specific audience with that information, then you become valuable to advertisers. If I can write a blog that reaches cat owners that are aged 40 to 49 who love chocolate, there may be people that want to advertise to that narrow market, and they may be interested in putting a banner ad or asking for a link on your website to be able to get their name in front of 40-year-old women that love cats and chocolate. It could happen, I promise. I have a long list of clients. I'll check and see if I can find someone for you. However, you may have a wider niche than that. So by understanding your analytics and by understanding who comes to your site, how often they come to your site, who they are, what they like, then you can create yourself, present yourself to be a valuable resource. So let's talk about what are the tools that we should use to track our analytics. There are two primary ones. Since we're at a WordPress conference and we're talking about WordPress, I'm going to talk about the two that are primarily used in WordPress. The first one is statcounter.com, and StatCounter gives you a variety of information. The main difference between StatCounter and Google Analytics, the second one, is that StatCounter actually gives you the information live. So you can go and you can hit post or publish on your WordPress, and you publish, and then you can see and watch as people come to your site. So there's some advantages to that. One of the disadvantages would be not very good time management. It wouldn't necessarily be a good use of your time, perhaps, to watch people come. There's another one that's called Woopra, which we're not going to talk a lot about today, but it also allows you to see people as they come on to the site. And it also, one of the things with Woopra is that if someone hits, say, the cart page, you have the option to pop on that page with the person and say, "Can I help you?" Slightly frightening and probably not appropriate for the blog audience. So that's why we're not going to talk about it today. We are going to talk more extensively about Google Analytics. Why would I choose Google Analytics? There's actually tools that are probably 6 or 7 major tools in the market, but Google Analytics is free. I'm a huge fan of free. Google is also the #1 search engine, and so they kind of know a little bit about what's going on the web, and so I trust them. And I've been using their analytics tools for probably about 4 or 5 years to be able to see what is going on our websites. Did I mention it's free? Google Analytics has just undergone a new interface. So if any of you, how many of you have ever used Google Analytics? Ashley, who loved it when she worked at a previous wonderful marketing firm. She loved Google Analytics. It has gone through a change where it is trying to become more user-friendly. So I have gone ahead and given you screenshots of the new Google Analytics. And in my presentation, I will be using an overhead, but we didn't have that today. The dashboard shows us, we can put on the dashboard whatever metrics that we would like to see on the website. As a blogger, there are a couple of metrics that I think are the most important for you to track. #1 is the time on site, average time on site. So when someone goes to your blog, they start a counter, a timer, to see how long someone stays on that. If they go to that site and they stay there for 30 seconds, do you think they actually like what they're seeing? Probably not. So an average time on site, if you write blog posts that are more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, then people stay on there longer and also may, like say, decide that today's blog post is so interesting that they want to go to other blog posts. So a good indicator of success for bloggers is average time on site. Another indicator of success is new visits. New visits are people that come to your site for the first time. That's one way of tracking success, is what is my percentage of new visits. However, if you're trying to develop a strong following, a better metric for your success would be returning visitors. So this means that people read your blog the first time, and they came back, and they came back, and they came back, and they came back. And actually in analytics, you can track and see how many times people have come to your site. Of course, visits are a good indicator. How many visits are you getting? The final one that we're going to talk about today is bounce rate. Bounce rate is tricky for a blogger. What a bounce rate is if you've ever done a search, a Google search, and you clicked on one of the links and you go to a website and you're like, that's not what I want, and you leave immediately, you've just bounced on that site. So that bounce rate for typical websites, a high bounce rate is bad. On a blog, a high bounce rate is not necessarily bad because oftentimes someone's coming to see today's post and they're not necessarily going to different posts. So you'll want to maybe not make bounce rate such a high priority, but just kind of be aware so that if you have like an 80 to 90 to 100% bounce rate, perhaps people aren't finding you for the right reasons. So we've talked about why you should study analytics. Number one, you can be valuable to advertisers. Number two, you can be valuable and find out what the people want to see on your site. And number three, perhaps most important, your analytics could serve as a very valuable status symbol. Some people have Mercedes, but you may have a very low bounce rate and a very high percentage of new visitors. Thank you.